But first and foremost, I want to say I want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're gathered on tonight, and also acknowledge each and every one of you being here, and also my own traditional owners back home in New South Wales, the Wiradjuri people. I don't really know what I'm going to talk about. I suppose I'll talk about who I am and what I do and how I got into it and where I'm at the moment. Born and bred Sydney boy, 34 and a half years ago now. Into a beautiful, loving family. I've got an older brother, Darren, who's 8 years older than me. He's more of a father figure though, more so than a brother. At a young age, I didn't have my father around very much, so my mum played both roles, and my brother thought he'd like to play the father role as well, so just give me a bit of a kick up the bum every now and then when I needed it. But he was also a very big role model for mine, as well as my mum. We grew up in an inner city suburb called Woolloomooloo in Sydney, so it's in between King's Cross, I'm sure you've all heard of King's Cross, and the city, so it's very much an urban part of Sydney. South Brisbane probably reminds you a lot of it. 5 minutes you walk into the city, and 2 minutes you're up in King's Cross. So very urban, very multicultural suburb. We had a lot of Islander families living there, a lot of Lebanese, Australian, European families, and a lot of Asian families as well. So I grew up in a beautiful area where I got to know a lot of different cultures and appreciate those cultures, because some of those friends of mine come from those backgrounds. So very fortunate in that regard. It was a House Commission area, so we didn't have much money there. It was a low socio-economic area, but we did the best we could to survive, and my parents and all the parents of the area did. I had the best memories growing up in Woolloomooloo. We got up to a lot of mischief, as you do as a kid. Because our backyards weren't that very big, so we couldn't play in our backyards. Our backyards were probably only 4 by 2 metres wide and full of concrete. So we had a very, the heart of Woolloomooloo is a basketball area. So there was a basketball court, a tennis court, and like a little park on the side of it. So that after school, everyone would finish school, would go home, throw our bags in the lounge room or whatever, and we'd all go down and congregate down at the playground area. We call it the playground. And there'd always be a game of basketball, or a game of cricket, or a game of touch football, or a game of tennis happening. And the fondest memories growing up, you'd go down there directly after school and you wouldn't come home until the streetlights came home, or my mum would sing out from the top of the street. We lived up the top of the street, so she'd sing out, "Luke, dinner's ready," and if I didn't hear it, one of the other kids would hear it, and I'd come and relay the message to me. So really, really fond memories. A lot of good sportsmen come out of Woolloomooloo. I wish I was one of those, but unfortunately I wasn't. Although I was my high school tennis champion in high school, so I love playing tennis. So yeah, a lot of area. Botanic Gardens was also a lot of a place where we hung out. It was only up the road, so we used to ride our bikes up around there, and which wasn't allowed, so we used to get chases, which was fun. Chases off the rangers in the Botanic Gardens, and that was a bit of a fun thing to do when we got a big board back at the playground. And we also had Sydney Harbour. You walk down the end of my street, Dowling Street, and you had the Finger Wharf. So I don't know, the Woolloomooloo Finger Wharf. It's now been redeveloped into a beautiful flash hotel. There's a lot of restaurants. It's the upper end of sort of your restaurant areas, very prim and proper these days. And Russell Crowe and John Laws live down the end of the wharf, and their units are worth like $12 million or something like that. So back in the day, where they actually live now, it was a derelict old Finger Wharf. It used to be used for the US Navy ships when they came in, from what I remember anyway, my own memories. And we used to be like a big fence there, so you have to jump over the fence or crawl under the fence. I was small enough and skinny enough to get under the fence, so I used to do that. And we used to fish off the end of the wharf. We used to swim, jump off the wharf itself, and some great memories there. We used to play hide and go seek in the wharf as well, with all the pigeons and the rats and in the dust, and it was fantastic, and a lot of people who grew up in the country have fond memories of that, and I have the most fondest memories of growing up right in the centre of the city. So And some of those friends I grew up with are lifelong friends of mine to this day. Another thing I remember about Woolloomooloo too, before I get onto my career, is the US Navy ships. I touched on that, and my mother's father he's from America. He was an African American who served in the US Army. So back in 1941, he came out to Australia, met my grandmother directly in that Woolloomooloo Bay area. So for me, that's got a lot of memories for myself. My grandmother is unfortunately passed away, but she met my mum's father, who was African American, who unfortunately my mum didn't get to know herself. He was based out in Sydney for 3 years as part of the US Navy force. Then my mum was born 1 year after my grandparents met, and when she was 2, he was posted away up to the Philippines to fight the Japanese, and unfortunately his naval ship was bombed and he passed away. So my grandmother had contact with the family in America for a while. I think they were from Texas, and they used to send over clothes and gifts from my mum during birthdays and Christmas time, and somehow that contact sort of fell away, and my grandmother really never spoke about it much. My mum speaks about it a bit, but she doesn't have many memories of it. So I'd love to be on Who Do You Think You Are on SDS. I'd love to get my story, that story out, not for me, for my mother, because she could have first cousins over in Texas, and as they say, everything's bigger in Texas, so hopefully I've got a lot more over there. So that's a bit about me. I grew up playing a lot of sport as well, like I said, and I grew up playing rugby league. That was my main passion. It still is my main passion. Co-main passion, that wasn't acting and everything else, but I loved rugby league. I loved tennis, I loved basketball. I played all those sports throughout school. Unfortunately, when I turned 16, I was playing one day out, unfortunately, but it happened. I suffered a pretty serious injury. I had a compound fracture of the humerus, so I was playing rugby league, local ground, local competition, went up to kick the ball, and a guy come and tackled me from the side. I fell awkwardly on my elbow, and the humerus bone snapped in two, and one half continued out through my skin. That's a compound fracture, so yeah, I got a pretty bad scar on my shoulder here. I'll show you. So I had 2 screws inserted for 2 years, and it was around about the time I was doing my HSC, my high school certificate, so just about to finish high school. So that was a pretty testing time, trying to do my trial exams. We had to get a couple of guys from the younger grades to come up, and I had to dictate to them what I thought the answers were, and they wrote it down. So I think that would have helped me out a bit too, some of the answers. But yeah, I'm going to be ahead of myself there. But before I got to that stage, I was gifted an opportunity to enter the entertainment industry at a very young age. And like the good boy that I was at primary school each and every day. But this particular day, and I'm not sure for what moment triggered it or what event triggered it, but my grade 3 teacher, she was a relief teacher, and I think I must have been a class clown or loved attention, I can't remember, but she pulled me aside at the end of the day, and she said, look, I really think you've got something. I want to enhance your energy, and I think you'll be great as an actor. And I said, and I was in grade 3, so I was 9 years of age, so of course she had to get permission of my parents to take a photo of me to send into an agency. So I thought, why not, acting, that's pretty cool, I get to be on TV, I heard they earn a lot of money. This is the things going through my mind at 9 years of age, and yeah. So she sent over the photo to an agency, one of the biggest child agencies in the country at the time, and still is, the Joan Gibson agency in Sydney, in North Bondi. She's been in the industry for over 40 years. And I got a phone call, and she's an old lady, she's so cute, she's in her 80s now, she's sort of semi-retired, and she wanted me to come and have a meeting with her in her office. So my mum dressed me in my best clothes at the time, and did my hair. I had a big afro back then, and got the afro comb out and whatever, and we went in there and had a meeting, and basically I I suppose my energy, my look, more so than anything, I think, because they didn't have any Aboriginal kids on their books at the time, or adults at the time. So it was a different look, and I was pretty keen to join. So I signed up on the spot, and that was the beginning of my career. I was 9 years of age. My first ever gig was, my first few gigs were extra work. So do you know what an extra does on a TV set? Just in the background. I was about to say they don't serve much purpose, but they do. Just as important as the main actors, but you just don't hear them speak, unfortunately. So that's where I started. I started from you could say, the bottom, and worked my way through each and every level of where I am today. I did a few extra works in TV shows and some films that were shot out here. Then I got my first sort of big break in a student directing film at the Australian Film and Television Radio School, which is located in Sydney. So it's where directing students learn their craft. Producers go through there as well, writers, cameramen, everyone basically behind the scenes learn their craft there. And I did a short film called Midsummer Legends. It was about two young boys who used to, after school, they used to hang out at this junkyard, and that was their playground, their oasis. And they used to come and they used to tell stories, ghost stories to each other and scare each other and find stuff in the junkyard. And they had this praying mantis that would come alive, made out of junk, and used to be their friend. And then one day a group of bullies come along and try to claim their junkyard over them, and basically the praying mantis comes to life and scares the kids away. It was just a 10-minute short film, and I loved it. I was able to talk and act out dialogue, and it was just, I fell in love with it. And so from that point on, I sort of got a lot of talking roles. But my other next bigger break was my television show called The Flying Doctors. Remember The Flying Doctors? Some of you? Yeah. So that at the time was one of the biggest shows on Channel 9 on television. So for me, that was a massive thrill to work on a network program. Another thrill was that it was shot in Melbourne, so it was the first time that I was going to be flying down on a plane to Melbourne or to anywhere. So I was very excited about that. But the main thrill was when I got to the airport. I checked my bags in, and my mum wasn't coming, so I was going there by myself, so I was pretty excited about that. And I got to the gate, and as we were getting closer to the gate, there was this tall black figure. And as we got closer and closer, you got taller and skinnier and taller and skinnier. And we eventually got about 10 minutes away, and my mum goes, "Oh, that looks familiar over there." I said, "Oh, I'll go." I said, "Oh my God, it is. It's Ernie Dingo." So at the time, for me, Ernie Dingo was the only blackface that I saw on television. So he was my idol. So I ran over him, no shame, ran over to him. I said, Ernie, he goes, "Hello, little brother, how are you?" He bent down. I said, "Oh, guess what? I'm an actor like you." I'm heading down to Melbourne on the plane, and I'm going to be in The Flying Doctors. He goes, "Oh, that's dead, little brother." He goes, "Guess what?" I said, "What?" He goes, "I'm playing your older brother." And I was like, "Oh," I said, "Mum, come over here." So from that moment on, not only to Ernie play my brother on screen, he was like an older brother off screen. He really looked after me for the next couple of years of my career. He took me under his wing. And I'll never forget it. He always said to never ever get a big head, and it's something that always sticks in my mind, and that's something that I always tell the younger generation coming through if I can. I don't want to be too big-headed and saying not big-headed, but if I can give any advice, that would be the main advice. And because being in the industry and being recognised and all that sort of stuff, you sort of can. And I've seen it being done. People sort of let it get to their head a bit too much. So, but Ernie used to come down after we shot The Flying Doctors. He'd come down to Woolloomooloo. He had a convertible. I forget what type of cover. It was convertible. Had the roof off. And my street where the playground was a dead end, so you had to do a U-turn. So everyone used to hang out on the wall or in the basketball court. So Ernie would come down, and I knew he'd be coming down to pick me up because he loved basketball, and I love basketball. And he was a member of the Sydney Kings, so he used to get tickets all the time. So he'd come down in his convertible car, and I wasn't there at the time, but he pulled up and goes, "Any of you boys seen Luke Carroll?" And they went, "Oh yeah, we'll go get him." So the 5 kids running around the whole suburb looking for me. They found me and I jumped in the car thinking I was deadly. It got to my head and we went off. And Ernie used to pick me up, take me for dinner, always give me advice, and he was a mentor early on in my career, and he still is a mentor. I don't see much of him these days, but I still appreciate what he did for me, and I love him dearly for what he did for me. He's like a brother. Now, from the Flying Doctors, 6 months later there was a massive children's television show that was being produced, and so they were on a hunt for 6 cast members, and the main cast members who were all kids. Now, the director of the Flying Doctors, Mario Andriacchio, was casting for this new series, and he remembered what I did on the Flying Doctors, so I got a phone call to go in for an audition. I didn't know much about it, and so I just went in, did my best. Got a call back, so I was down to the last, I think, 10 kids for that role, and they went Australia-wide as they do usually. Did my first callback, did a second callback, and got the job. I was absolutely stoked because, you know, working with Mario again, but also it required me to go down to Melbourne again to work and fly on a plane again, I suppose. But it was also a main role, and it was fun. It had puppets, it had green screens, where it was just, the technology back then was just amazing, and some of it's still used these days. The only bad thing was that I had to go to Melbourne, but I had to live down there for 6 months, and that was without my mum, my dad. Dad come back in my life at that stage. They both had working jobs, couldn't come, and so I ended up living with the young girl who played my sister. Ended up living with her and her family in South Caulfield in Melbourne. The deal was to fly me back every fortnight, but I was just too homesick, so and it was a massive budget. I'll tell you the budget in a sec, but they had to make me happy. I suppose, because I was 12 years of age, you know, so it was a big thing to move down there for that long. They flew me back every weekend, so sport little brat that I got my way, but I'd fly back and forth, so I'd finish on the Friday afternoon, depending how long we worked for, fly back, and then fly back down on the Sunday night. And flying back down on the Sunday night was the most heartbreaking thing I've ever been through, and I remember it was just the worst experience saying goodbye to mum, because I was such a mummy's boy, and but then being so happy on the Friday heading home. So much so, I flew that often that I ended up getting to know some of the flight attendants pretty well and became pen pal with them. That was just beautiful. But, you know, fond memories, you know, and in hindsight, I wish that experience that I had on Liftoff, because I didn't appreciate it at the time, but now in hindsight, I appreciate it so much. They really looked after me. Janet Holmes Accord, she funded most of it along with the government and ABC. It was an ABC show, but she put in a hell of a lot of money. It had a $10 million budget back in 1991, so it was a massive production, sold to several, I can't even tell you how many countries, but it went to a few countries around the world. Went into a second series, and it sort of taught me, and that's where my training came from. Just working on set, TV sets, film sets. I'm so comfortable working on those sets, type of areas, because that's where my training's come from. You know, I know the language, I know where the shot's going to be set up, all that sort of stuff. So, in hindsight, that taught me to be a better actor and appreciate the craft of acting. But it also, in hindsight, helped me become not a better person, but it helped me grow up quickly. You know, being 12 years of age, living down in Melbourne, you know, having to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. We were working 14 to 16 hour days, so back then the laws were a lot more relaxed about children working. We were working flat out like adults, on par with adults. Those laws have obviously changed these days, thank God, but we were working long hours. I was basically an adult with a 12-year-old's body. But loving it on set, but being sad when I got home and spoke to my big sook. I did a few other shows after Liftoff, mainly guest roles. There was a show called Ocean Girl, and they were mainly Australian Children's Television Foundation shows. So, Ocean Girl, what else did I do? The Man from Snowy River, which is on Channel 9, a TV series, and which was pretty fun. You know, I learned to ride a horse, and it was very cold. I remember that in Ballarat. We shot around Ballarat in Dallasford area, so it was very cold. But then when I reached high school in 1991 too. Mum pulled me back. My mum, very strong Aboriginal woman, very scared of her, still am, love her dearly. But she made sure that I pulled back on my acting, my career, I suppose you could call it at the time, and made me concentrate on my education. And like with my experience on Liftoff, in hindsight, it was the best experience that she made. But at the time, I wasn't happy. I was loving being on TV. I was loving getting paid. I was loving the limelight, I suppose. Something that Ernie said I shouldn't get too much involved in. But from year 8 through to year 12, I mainly concentrated on education. I do a few commercials here and there. They even did a bit of modelling for Best and Less and David Jones catalogues. Can you believe it? I don't know what I'm thinking. But only little day things here and there. Nothing 6 months or nothing that will take me away from school for a long period. I finished high school in 1996, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Like most kids these days, I suppose, or kids when they finish school. I always had great experiences and still have had great experiences at dentists, and so I wanted to be a dentist at one stage. And I did work experience at the Aboriginal Medical Service in Redfern, and loved it. I also did it was a great week I had with the late and great Uncle Bob Belvoir, who was Australia's first barrister, I believe, Uncle Bob Belvoir. And I did a week's work experience with him. But it was pretty full-on. I went to the Supreme Court and saw some pretty full-on stuff, so I didn't like doing that. But I loved my time with Uncle Bob. He was a true gentleman. So then I had the option of being a dentist or getting back into the entertainment industry, and whether or not should I do some training. So I asked a few of the directors that I worked with in the past and a few people that who had been in the industry for a while, and they basically talked me out of going to drama school. And they said, look, you've been working since you were a young age. Your training you've already got on set. You can't get much better than that. I believe that's wrong in a sense. I'll tell you a bit later. But especially with TV and film, you know how it works. You know how the language of it all. So I took their advice and I went back into I rang up my agent and said, look, I'm available full time now. I finished school. So I went back and started auditioning for a lot of things, but then I wasn't getting much stuff, so I got a normal job, I suppose, and become a postie for a little bit, which was amazing. I loved it. Because I was young, I was fit, and I worked in an area that was really hilly, so I'd have 20 kilos on my back, and I'd be running up the hills, and I was the fittest I'd ever been. I loved the lads that worked there, and the girls. Everyone was just a team. It was just a really good atmosphere and environment. I loved it, and they loved me. I was a relief postie, so I knew all the different runs. So if anyone was sick, I'd do their run, and I'd do it better than they did. So I got them in trouble a bit often. So yeah, it was fantastic, and it helped me appreciate that hard work. You've got to earn. To earn a good wage, you have to do some hard work sometimes, because at times acting would come easy sometimes, and you earn a good wage and you really wouldn't appreciate it as much. So it helped me learn that sort of things. Then I got a phone call it's changed my life. It really has, in terms of my acting career. The Sydney Theatre Company rang up and said, look, there's a play that we're going to produce in a couple of weeks. We're just auditioning for a role. We want you to come in to meet the director and audition for him. So, I was a bit raw. I hadn't done acting. I'd been auditioning, but I just wasn't immersed in it as much as I should have been. And this was the Sydney Theatre Company, so I was nervous as hell. So I rock up and meet this young Murray fella, scruffy hair, big tubby. At the time he was, I'm glad he's not here. But he was just fantastic. He had this great aura about him, and I auditioned for him, and it really did change my life meeting this gentleman. And the gentleman's Wesley Enoch, who I've gone on to work with on plenty of different productions these days. The production was The Cherry Pickers, and it was recognised as the first Aboriginal written play by a man called Kevin Gilbert, another fellow Wiradjuri man, and we produced it for the STC in 2001. We had a 3-week season at Wharf 2, the second sort of theatre space in the Wharf there down at Walsh Bay. And from that, basically I sort of was on a really good role. A director came and saw the production from Bell Shakespeare. We were doing, and I auditioned for him, and I was cast in a children's play called My Gary Gunji, which is an adaptation of a book by Monty Pryor, Bori Pryor. He was a lad from Upper Cairns, up far north Queensland way, and it was about a little frog. About a little boy who's scared of dark and he's scared of bullies, and he wets the bed because he's too scared to go to the toilet at night time because it's so far away. And then this storm happens, and this little frog, he sings out to his ancestors to come and save him, and this little frog pops up on the louvers, and he thinks it's a sign from his ancestors. And so it's like, when he's got this little frog with him, he can be the bravest boy, he can go talk to the girl that he likes at school, he can go to the toilet at night. So beautiful little play, and this beautiful young lady next to me played my auntie, mother, sister. You didn't play the frog? No, that was Kurt. But Ursula Jovic, who's a distinguished actress herself, played my sister in that production. So we did that in 2001. It was fantastic, full-on role. It went for about an hour and a half, but I was never off stage. I was off stage for maybe 5 seconds. It was physical, but because I'd been doing the postie work, I was fine. And I was only young too, so I wasn't too old. Didn't have a belly on me at the time. Then I sort of had a bit of a 2002 was a pretty good year for me. Early in the year, I was cast in 2001. I'm still at 2001. After the play, I was cast in a film, my first lead for a feature film called Australian Rules. And for me, that was a big thrill, because it required me to play AFL football. And coming from a sporting background, I was like, yeah, give me a chance at this. And I never played AFL, so it was a bit of a challenge for me. So I grew up playing rugby league, so they sent me off to a couple of Swans training, which was I was stoked with that. Got to meet the boys, and they looked after me, and just learning technique and how they kick it and how they hand pass it. Then we shot in Adelaide, so we had 2 weeks of rehearsal, which is a gift, doing a film to have 2 weeks rehearsal, believe me. And I'd go and rehearse during the day. Then on the Tuesday and Thursday nights, I'd go and train with a local team, and the local team they eventually were in the film of Australian Rules. So I'd go and hang out with the boys and kick the ball around Tuesday, Thursday nights, and they must have liked what they seen. The coach must have liked what he'd seen, so he asked me to play on the weekends, and I was that close from putting the boots on, but the producer pulled the pin on it just in case I got injured, so I was spewing. But I learned a few different skills and went on to make I'm very proud of the film. There was a bit of controversy about it, about the story being told. That was a story based on events that happened where a young Aboriginal boy was shot and killed near Point Pearce, which is the Aboriginal community in South Australia. So there was a bit of I'll tell the story because it's very interesting. So I arrived in Adelaide, and I'm so excited. I'm doing this film, and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm doing a feature film. I'm going to be one of the lead roles. Stoked I am. I rock up. Lisa Flanagan, who's another Aboriginal actress, who played my sister. Nathan Phillips, who's gone on to great things, played my best mate, who was in that fantastic movie Snakes on a Plane. But he's gone to LA. He's doing great things. He's in Wolf Creek. Tom Budge, who was in he's a fantastic actor. What's that shut Brand New Day. He played the German character in Brand New Day, the hippie. So it was fantastic, We arrived in Adelaide. They said, look, tomorrow we're going up to Point Pearce. We're going to read the script in front of the community that it's based around. We're like, yes, good idea. Now this film, the screenplay was written by a white fellow called Philip Gwynn. Great man, big tall fella, who hung around and grew up with a lot of Aboriginal boys. So it's based on his life experiences and what he saw. Now, unfortunately, he wrote about that incident that happened, which for the family involved was just a bit too close to home. Now, that family lived in Point Pearce, so anyway, here we are, driving up. Me and Lisa's from around that area, so that's her mob. We're driving up, we've got an American producer, Mark, who's an Australian citizen now, but the accent happening, and Paul Goldman, who's directed Suburban Mayhem and a few other films, and mainly video clips. It's a 3-hour drive from Adelaide to Point Pearce. We get there, alright, everyone, we're going into the main hall. So we arrive in the main hall and it's all set up, so they said, welcome everybody, we're going to read the script for Australian rules. It was called Deadly Honor at the time, basically the same name of the novel, as the novel. We got maybe 5 pages into the screenplay and I was scared. When this happened, I really did question whether or not I was doing the right thing. A couple of the elders got up and started basically. They weren't very happy that the story has been told. The incident of the young boy dying, which was my character. I was playing that character. And so basically, they got up, mainly the elders, and they weren't happy basically. And I was pretty scared. And I felt for Lisa more so because that was her mob, that was her people there. And she was devastated. She walked out, I left with her. We eventually got everything calm, so we got the main family members that were involved, that the incident was based around, to come and have a closed meeting. And from that meeting, we came to an agreement that some of the things in the script would be changed and some of the things would be left. And everyone walked away. It was fantastic. It made me feel a lot better because I dead set was going to fly back to Sydney the next day. I didn't want to be a part of it. And now it's a film that I'm very proud of, very, very proud of it. And it's one of my highlights of making that film. And the good thing that came out of that film, that meeting, and well, I like to think positive about things that happen. Protocols. If a white man, or a white person, sorry, or non-Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person write something about content that involves, Indigenous content, there are protocols now that you have to go through to make sure that everyone's happy. I think from that meeting and from that film, I think more so that's the reason why these protocols are in place, because of what happened with that film. So I'm grateful that I was sort of part of history in that regard. I was there when this should have happened. So I'm proud of that fact, that it will never happen again. I'm also proud of the fact that the film did so well. And I got a nomination out of it. AFI Award nomination. So didn't win, but I walked the red carpet. Then I did a few more plays with Ursula again. We did The Dreamers at Belvoir Street. Uncle Jack Davis played. He's a Noongar from WA. Played brother and sister this time. And Belvoir Street, I love Belvoir Street. Then we did my Gurri again, another tour of Gurri, national tour of that. Don't know how we did that, but we did it. And I did a lot of theatre work for a long time. Wesley kept ringing me, Luke, I've got this role for you. And I just loved working with Wesley. And I loved theatre because I didn't train in theatre. That wasn't my training, so it was a whole new world to me. And it still is a whole new world. And then I got a gig that another gig that I'm really, really proud of. And it was a television show called Remote Area Nurse. And we shot that in 2004. And it was based up in the Torres Strait Islands. So SBS produced it. It was on SBS. Matchbox Pictures produced it, sorry. And we shot up on this beautiful island, Musik Island, in the eastern part, the eastern islands of the Torres Strait. The shape of the island is in a teardrop. It's beautiful. I don't know if anyone's seen the series itself yet. So it's basically about each island has a remote area nurse that looks after the community. So Susie Porter played that role, and it was just about life on an island. It gave everybody an insight of the Torres Strait Islander culture. It gave me an insight of it because I knew it was indigenous to Australia as well as the Aboriginal culture, but I knew my knowledge of the culture itself wasn't much. So to be able to get up there on this tiny island, which was 2.2 kilometres wide at its widest spot, that's where the airstrip was, and it was 800 metres wide and 2.2 kilometres long. So it was tiny. It was paradise. It was turquoise waters. It was dancing. It was food. It was just the most spectacular experience an actor could have. I learnt some of the language, some of the dances, and I came back fit. It was a dry community, and being, I was 30 to 25 at the time, so I didn't mind having a few beers after work every now and then, but it was a dry island, so there was no alcohol. So for 3 months I was just detoxed, and I came back to Sydney fresh as a daisy. So it was fantastic, and that was really well received, and that and Australian Rules were two pretty proud moments in my career being part of those projects. 2007, so I'm going year by year here. So there's a few. 2005. 2005. I've jumped ahead there. I did a television show. I was part of the main cast. It was the first time I'd been part of the main cast on a television show as an adult, and it was a show called The Alice on Channel 9 a few years back. So I used to have long dreadlocks. I'm losing my hair at the moment. So I used to have long dreadies and wild dreadies, and. So for me that was a big thrill, I was a part of this main cast, network television again, Channel 9, more in prime time for about 3 weeks until they brushed us to 10:30 at night, but Monday night 7:30, we were prime time. And for me it was a big thrill, I'm back on network television, doing a show that I loved, travelling between Sydney and Alice Springs to shoot it. We shot the exteriors out of Alice Springs, so obviously you can't shoot some of the exteriors of Alice Springs in Sydney. We did shoot some of it, but we shot all the interiors in Sydney, but we went out every 2 weeks and shot the red dirt and walking down the main street of Alice. It was just fantastic. So we shot 22 episodes of that. Unfortunately, it only lasted 1 season, but it helped lift my profile a bit in the country, and that can never hurt when you want to be successful as an actor. 2006. What did I do in 2006? I can't remember. I think I had a quiet year in 2006, which was pretty good. I didn't go back to posty work. I just did a bit of bar work. That's what I did. Back into the bar work. 2007 was a big year for me. Remote Area Nurse was nominated for a Logie Award. So we went to the Logie Awards, and I ended up at. Each network has their own party. So the Logie Awards happen, and the ceremony finishes, and it's just party time basically. Channel 7 has their party, 9, 10, so on and so on. I ended up at the Channel 7 after party with the mate who was one of the actors, or one of the productions, All Saints. I did All Saints. That was an intro anyway. And I ended up chatting to a guy who came over, and Ursula knows him very well. I found out later on that it was Ursula's ex-boyfriend, Cameron. So I'm just chatting, and he goes, "Oh, Luke, how are you?" And I'm like, I didn't know who this guy was, so I'm like, "Hey, how you going, mate?" He goes, "Oh, look, I know you work, mate. I just want to say hello, and I'm a producer, and I'm producer of Home and Away and stuff." And I said, "Oh, okay, nice." He goes, "Actually, there's a role coming up that I think you'll be really good for." I said, "Oh, okay, Home and Away." And he said, look, don't worry too much." He goes, "It's a 7-week gig. It's the role's a doctor. Basically, you'll be in, cause a bit of trouble when you leave." And I said, "Oh, okay, cause a bit of trouble as a doctor, okay." And he said, "Look, just have a think about it, and give me your manager's details." So he walked away, and I let him walk for about 10 paces, and I grabbed him and I said, "Mate, yeah, Cameron, I'd love to do it." And the main reason was that the role, that it was a doctor, and I consider myself an actor, but I'm also an Aboriginal actor. I look in the mirror every day, and that's what I see. So you can't hide from the fact. And for me to see, and for the community out there, people to watch, and a lot of black fellas watch Home and Away. Trust me. For them to see a black fella on Home and Away playing the role of a doctor, doing well, that was a big tick for me. So it wasn't about being employed or being on Home and Away and getting a bit, I wouldn't get it anyway, but just all that sort of stuff that went through my mind. That was the main reason I said yes to it. And also, it's a it was a pretty big honour to be offered the role of Home and Away because they usually cast Australia-wide. So to be offered it, it was really nice. And so, I went ahead with it. And the experience itself, and I'll let you know a bit of a secret here, I've been acting for a long time before I did Home and Away, and I've never ever worked the way they do. As an actor, it's not rewarding at all. It's very much a sausage factory. You get in there and you basically just know your lines. They don't care about the way you're acting and the way you're delivering it. You block the scene. You walk in here, you walk there, chat, walk off. They've got 4 cameras, so usually you only work with 1 camera. They've got 4 in the studio. I was on there for 7 weeks. It took me 6.5 weeks to get used to it. It was just chaotic. I could not get my head around it. I had 2 love interests in that 7-week period. So my first love interest, the scene was we go on a date and it didn't happen. And then I hook up with one of the other doctors at the hospital. Unfortunately, the actress that I was supposed to act opposite with and be intimate with, I never met her until the day I rocked up on set, and my first scene was to kiss her in the hallway. And so usually, you have a rehearsal period and you get to know the actress, not on Home and Away. So we're talking this first scene where I've got to kiss her, and I'm like, what's your name again? It was so awkward, and it come across in my performance, and it was probably the worst job I've ever done, my worst performance. There was nothing nice about it, really. It's just really crazy. And I think as an actor coming to the industry, if you do Home and Away, it's a great way to learn things. It's great training, but if you want to get anything out of an actor, any feedback, the director's in a control room. You don't even see the director. He's not even on the floor with you. It's just like, get it done. Time is money. Let's go. Crazy stuff. But in hindsight, I'm glad I went through that experience because I know I'll never do it again. Unless they give me the big money. But great experience and good for my profile as well. It's good to see walking down the street in blackfellas, and it's alright. Everybody walking, noticing me, saying good job or whatever. But it really made me feel proud that blackfellas would come up and say, "What, Danny Butler seeing a blackfella playing a doctor on a high rating in a long running show." So for me, that filled my heart with joy, and it always does when my own people notice me for my work, because I know I'm bringing a bit of joy into their life. So from there I did a film called The Tenderhook. Now this was a bit of a highlight for me because I got to work with Hugo Weaving, who I think is a fantastic actor, and Rose Byrne, who I've known for a while, but she's doing great things in America. So I played a boxer, so I played a doctor and a boxer in 1 year, so it was fantastic. And that's a great thing about acting, you can play all these different characters and learn all these different skills and skill up. It was just an amazing year, 2007. At the end of 2007, I did another film called A Crazy Film with a crazy director and a crazy co-stars, called Stone Brothers. And that was an Indigenous comedy, road trip comedy, basically about 2 cousins who were given a sacred stone each by their uncle, who originally they lived in Kalgoorlie, but they moved in Perth for job opportunities, to find a job and make a go of life, And so their uncle gives them a rock, says, "Look, when this needs to come back," and hands it to them. My character's had enough of the city life. I've got a cousin who's a bit of a party animal, and he's going out and chasing the girls, and I just want to get back home and learn more about my culture because I'm fair-skinned and he's full-blood looking. And he always teases me about it, so I want to go back and learn more about my culture. So I said, "Look, I'm going back to Cal. I'm leaving you here. I'm going. Where's my rock?" He goes, "Oh, I've lost your rock." And so the journey begins. So we're on this crazy journey trying to find this sacred rock that he's sold to somebody. I was going to go on the journey by myself, but he eventually jumps in the car with me, and he's rolled 187 joints on the way. So it's a similar to Cheech and Chong. It's a crazy film. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's just the director, Richard Franklin, who's a great playwright. He's wrote a few plays, and I've been in one of his plays, Conversations with the Dead. Each of those characters in that film is Richard. He's each and every one of those characters, and it was a great show, a great experience. David Page, who's in Mare of the Courage at the moment, he was in the film, and I worked with David a few times as well. He was in the Cherry Pickers, and we had a great time, cruising around Perth and Kalgoorlie, and It was just really, really good memories. And some lifelong friends from there. What have I done since then? I should have wrote this down. But what else have I done? 2008, I went over back to Perth. We screened Stone Brothers at the Cinefest film festival over in Busselton in WA, so Margaret River region. And we had a bit of a local premiere there, and we were at the after party. Another director approached me, offered me a role on a film, which was a horror film. So for me, I thought, oh yeah, horror. I've never done horror before. It would be awesome. And, I love horror. I grew up watching Friday the 13th and Halloween and all those sort of scary films. Nightmare on Elm Street. So I thought, oh yeah, this would be similar to that. And for me it was great because we had a great young cast, some great young actors. Jessica Murray, who was in Pact of the Rafters, the blonde girl who's gone over to America and she's doing fantastic things. She was part of the cast. Michael Dorman, who's a fantastic actor, who's done several films and television shows in the country. John Jarrett was a part of the cast. Ben Mendelsohn. So there was some fantastic names. So I thought, wow, what a great opportunity to work with some of these fantastic actors. It was back in Perth and it was horror, so but I did stipulate in my contract, because every time I watch a horror film, the black fella always dies first. So I said, no, I'm not going to die first if I die. So I won't give it away, but I may or may not die, but I know I'm not the first one anyway. But for me it was great because I've been working, this was 2008, so it was nearly 20 years since I've been working, but I've never done a horror film, so all the special effects, I went into, they're called the Makeup Effects Group in Sydney, and they worked on The Matrix and all these big productions, American productions. And I walked into their warehouse, and it was just amazing. Their masks, and they had to make a complete copy of my arm because, I'll give you my arm snaps off, right, and it's just, so I had to go in there and put my hand in this, like a big Perspex box, and they put it was like putty sort of material, and I had to hold it there really still for 10 minutes, and they pulled it out, and they basically made a carbon copy of my arm. Every hair was in place, the colour, every wrinkle on my face, it was just amazing. And they could manoeuvre it, and it'd snap in half, and blood would squirt out, and it was just fantastic. I loved it. And I rocked up on set, and it's just, get it out, Needle is a movie if you can. It was just, for me it was just sort of fun. It was movie magic, something I've never seen before. I've worked so many times in TV sets, but I've never seen that sort of magic happen, and I was like a kid in the candy store. It was awesome. So yeah, I've done obviously a few TV shows. Then I got a really, another really gift, and that was to audition for a long-standing children's show called Play School. I'm sure you've heard of it. And for me, and for within the industry, to do Play School, it's seen as, what can you say? It's a pretty hard thing to be, first and foremost, get an audition for Home and Away. That's a pretty big thing, because people are watching you, and they don't just they really look out for who they audition. Play School, yeah. Oh, that's Home and Away, you know it? Play School, come inside. Open wide, come inside. Yeah, so I auditioned for Play School. The only bad thing was that I was going to be away the day they were auditioning face to face, so I had to put something down on tape without any direction. I went into a studio, put something down, had to sing a song, draw a dinosaur, do a bit of a dance. And I said, look, well, I don't know what I'm doing. My singing's not the best. They actually vouch, Chanel and Paula can vouch for. And so I didn't think much of it. But luckily enough, the audiences of Play School is a bit younger, so they don't really care how bad you sing. Put it down, went away, came back 2 weeks later, got a phone call. I said, my agent said, look, they loved your audition, they want you to come in for a recall. Down to the last, however many or so. I said, oh, really? And I was really surprised, because I thought, no way in the world, they're going to look at this and go, never ever again. And that's the thing with it when you audition, you just never know if you've done you might feel like you've done a great audition, but never get the role, and then walk out of there thinking, what the hell did I do? But get the role. So it's amazing what directors and producers see within your performance that you don't. And got the call back, and this time I was in ABC Studio, so I was on the set of Play School, and did that make me nervous? Because usually you only audition within a room at a casting director's office. And they had a camera set up, and they had the co-presenter, Teo Gilbert, who's still on there. He's one of the best presenters on there. And I was so nervous, and I thought, well, come on, look, you've been doing it for so long. Try to concentrate, and I was sweating, and I was probably the most nervous I've ever been in an audition process. Anyway, so I went and drew the dinosaur again. Do you know the dinosaur, or whatever it's called? And did the dance and did the sing along, and it was fantastic. I loved it, and Teo really helped me with my audition. It was awesome. Walked out of there not thinking much at all. Got the phone call, I got the gig, and I was just really, really, really honoured to get this role, because it's an institution, Play School. It's been on for so long. I think we've all grown up watching Play School. It's in its 48th year this year, and for me personally, I love children. If I can give back, because I started in the industry at 9 years of age. If I can give any advice or get through to a child, whether through be presenting Play School or whatever, that's my ultimate dream gig. So to do Play School has just been fantastic. I'm the first, and I might sound big-headed here, but I'm really honoured and proud of this title, that I'm the first Aboriginal male presenter on Play School. So I've been on it for now, going into my third year. So after 46 years, they never had a male presenter on there, Aboriginal Indigenous presenter. We had female, we had Deborah Mullen, Christine Anu, and the late and great Auntie Pauline McLeod. So I'm the first male, so that's a title I'm really proud of, and I don't really sort of give myself that, but I always say that when I talk to people, because I'm really proud of that fact. I love kids and I love children's television, because I grew up doing a children's show, and it's sort of going full circle sort of thing. So, and presenting, it's a big challenge. I'm presenting the camera, so it's a new challenge for me as an actor. Singing, making stuff, dancing, and sometimes you're doing all those three things at the same time. So it's a big challenge. It's a big gig. It may look easy, but it's the most challenging gig I've ever done. It's really, really, but it's one of the most rewarding at the same time. And I'm surprised. Ursha's got the best voice I've ever heard, and she's great. She's got. They're crazy not having me. Lost that to me. No. So you get this. I also do a lot of MC work, so I do a lot of MC work at festivals, do a lot of stuff during NAIDOC week. I host the Deadly Awards. I have for the last 4 or 5 years now. So the Deadly Awards are the big national Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Awards at the Opera House. They're on in September, around about September each year, and they showcase other awards, community awards. So we've got health awards, community awards, arts awards, so actor of the year, actress of the, male actor of the year, female actor of the year, dancing, sports awards. So it covers the whole community basically, or tries to anyway. And I was lucky enough to win actor of the year male actor of the year in 2007, and that was a highlight of my career, because to be recognised by my own people, and being at the Opera House and looking out and seeing everyone dressed to the nines and looking deadly, it was just really one of the most proudest moments of my career, as well as hosting it. I'm just glad to be a part of it. So a few things I'm proud of. Proud of my son. I've got a 12-year-old son who I had when I was 22. It was a bit of a surprise, I had him up here on the weekend, so I'm pretty proud of the fact that I'm hopefully a good father figure, and he's a great kid. So hopefully have some more very, 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 very soon. But yeah, that's basically me. I'm very proud of what I've done. I'm proud of the fact that I've had a great support network. I do understand a lot of children, a lot of adults don't have much of a support network, and I've been one of the lucky ones to have a strong mother behind me, pushing me, making sure that she was looking after me, making sure that I concentrated on my education, just in case if I did have an accident or injured myself badly, that I could have a career outside of acting if I can maintain my acting up. So I'm grateful for having my mum in my life, my brother, my older brother. My dad's got 2 younger daughters, my sisters, so I'm glad that they're in my life. And I've been really lucky, you know, like I said, growing up in housing commission, government housing, we didn't have much, but my mum did pretty well, I think, so, and I think what I'm doing is correct with the way she brought me up, so, yeah, I don't often give her much praise to her face, and I probably should, so if you could send this tape down to Mum, that'd be great. She's a strong woman, Mum. She's been in education for the last 25 years, so she's all about education. She started as an Aboriginal education assistant, so she went to, she worked at a school in Sydney in an area called Glebe, so it's a high population of Aboriginal people, housing commission area as well as really nice houses. It's got a good mixture. And there was a lot of Aboriginal kids that went from Redfern, Woolloomooloo and Glebe areas, so they went there. So there was a big population, and Mum would be their sort of support network at the school. If anything went wrong, if the teachers had a problem with the kids, they'd go to Auntie Faye. Everyone called my mum Auntie Faye, even the teachers, and to this day they all call her Auntie Faye. She was the first point of contact for the students and the teachers if there was a problem, and she has so much respect in the community back home. Everyone always, whenever I was running to one of her ex-students, they just can't praise her enough, and I know exactly where they're coming from. So, you know, she's been, like I said, education 25 years, and it's sort of me sort of working on play school and sort of educating kids. It sort of works in well with me and my mum. So I think she's pretty proud of the fact that I'm doing play school as well. Future goals for myself. I want to continue doing great stories. I've fallen in love with acting. It wasn't my passion growing up. As a kid, like I said, rugby league was, and playing for the mighty Rabbitohs was, but I've just fallen in love with the craft of it. Meeting people, telling stories, and I'm still learning so much stuff, you know. This production I'm doing now, Mother Courage and her children, I walk in there, I'm learning. We learnt a welcome song from this area, which in language, and it's just something that I just love doing all this sort of stuff. Shakespeare and doing sort of all the stuff I've done over the years, it's just been fantastic. Theatre, film and television, and it's just being an actor, you sort of educate. It's an education doing productions, and you educate the audience about certain topics or events. And a lot of the Aboriginal and touch on the content that shows that I've done, it's all about, the majority of it's been about telling stories, but it's also been an education, not only for a non-Indigenous audience, but also for an Indigenous audience, you know, because a lot of the stories have been lost, and a lot of those stories weren't allowed to be told from certain areas. So, you know, we've been able to bring them to life, and it's, I've been learning from a lot of those experiences as well, so it's been fantastic for me. I'm just so glad that my grade 3 teacher took that headshot, because it set me on the right path, and I couldn't see myself doing anything else, unless I was grade English and we playing for the Rabbitohs carving up, but I'm not him. But yeah, I love acting, I love presenting, I love telling stories, I love chatting to people who have watched my stuff and who have appreciated it, and yeah, I just love meeting people. I've met so many great friends through my acting who are lifelong friends, and it's just been fantastic, both on and in front of the camera and behind the camera. You know, a lot of the crew I've worked with have just been fantastic, and I've maintained friendship with those. And I just love telling stories, and I love how everybody, whether they're on the stage or in front of the camera or behind it, that they work to the best of their ability to make that story come to life. And if anybody wants to see reconciliation in process, just come and work on a film set or television set or theatre production, because you have black and white or Asian or whatever they are. There's plenty of different nationalities now in this country. Everybody works to a one goal, and that is to tell a great story, no matter what the content is, and that's reconciliation for me. You know, everyone working together to tell a great story. So it's a great process, and I love it, and I just love being a part of it. I'm very proud of the fact that I'm lucky enough to be a part of it. So, future goals, I want to head over to LA, because I'm so comfortable, not too comfortable, but I love, I know, like I said earlier, the language of film set and television set. I just know how it works. I'm still learning, but I know the majority of how it works, how a shot's set up. I would love to crack the market in LA because I love film. I really love film. That's my passion. My look, I could pass as an African American with my heritage from my grandfather. But I've also told I could pass as many different other nations. Hispanic. Yes, loco. But if you look at television shows over in America compared to television shows back here, and I think they showcase what the real community of that country is, and I think Australia's way behind the 8 ball in this country. I mean, you walk down the street, whether it be in Brisbane, Karratha, Perth, Melbourne, Australia's a big melting pot of different nationalities. Unfortunately, that's not shown on television shows. It's slowly changing, and the best thing about me being where I am now, and this is the best part about me, and what I'm most proud of, when I started out as an actor, like I said, Ernie Dingo was the only black face that I knew on television. Now, a big thank you has to be said to the formerly the Australian Film Commission, now Screen Australia, and Wal Saunders, who got a program up for up and coming directors, and a training program. Warwick Thornton's been through it. I think Wayne Blair maybe, or Wayne's had something to do with it, but because of these programs that have been in place, it's allowed us to tell our own stories. We've now got Indigenous producers, we've now got Indigenous directors, writers, actors. It's just, there are so many of us now, and it's just a great thing to see that. I'm still consider myself young, but I've been around for a long time, and to see it just flourish now, and to see where it is today, and to have that opportunity be given to us to tell our own stories, it's pretty exciting to be a part of, and I'm glad I'm here when it's just about to boom, and it's fantastic. And Redford Now, sorry, I forgot about Redford Now. I did an episode on Redford Now, as did Ursula and Chanel and Paul. Should be in the next series, but that was pretty proud moment. That was a production where I grew up around the Redford area, and I had a lot of family lived on the block where it's set, and big Aboriginal community, the block. So for me to go back down there and shoot scenes where I used to run around like a crazy little boy, was fantastic, and really proud. The first Indigenous produced, directed and written television show in Australia's history. So pretty proud of the fact that I was a part of that as well. So really, it's really exciting times for everybody, for the whole audience of Australia to be watching whatever's produced, but especially the Indigenous content, because it's, like I said, it's like an educational process for everybody. And I suppose reconciliation, because we're all working together for that goal. So, but yeah, that's about it for me. Hopefully go to LA and get into film, work with Tom Cruise. Work with Don Cheadle. I love Don Cheadle as an actor, so I'd love to work with Don Cheadle as an actor, with something. But that's about it. And I'm not in the industry for accolades or awards, even though I've been nominated for awards or whatever. I'm not in that. And I believe if actors are in it for that reason, then they're in it for the wrong reason, to be patted on the back. But a big goal of mine, it's not for me. It'll be good for my career, but it's not for me to say, oh yeah, I've got it. But it'll be good for my people back here to see me, to be the first Indigenous person to win an Oscar. I think that'll be so much fun, and I reckon it'll just bring everybody back here together. That's one of my goals actually, to be the first Indigenous person to win an Oscar, and I think it'll be a great thing for Australia if an Indigenous person won an Oscar. It'll just bring everyone close together, because we all know we're so proud when an Australian wins an Oscar. Just imagine if there's an Indigenous Australian, there'll just be parties on the street for the whole week. All the black fellas will be inviting everyone else over. So that's it for me. I think. I think I've spoke for too long, but Anybody want to ask any questions or anything? Or, Lara, how's it work?
Oh, yeah, if anyone has any questions that they want to throw out, go nuts. I reckon that this last week will be really casual. Like, we've got tea and coffee over there if you want to go and grab a cuppa and just have a bit of a yarn.
Mother Courage and Her Children opens on the 29th of May. Shinoa Demel, that's right, I'm testing her. Shinoa Demel is in it. She's one of the actresses in it, as well as Paula Nazarski, who's also helped translate it with Wesley Enoch into the fantastic script that is now. And we've got the main lady herself playing Mother Courage, the title role of Miss Ursula Yobi. She's an accomplished actress in her own right, and she should be here. I'm your son this time around. Yeah, I played your lover, your nephew, your brother. I played your next play. Yeah. So Ursula and I have done about 6 or 7 different productions together, and you're in Redfern now as well, but different episode. So I think you should be here. You're too busy, man. You're too busy.
Not even. This has been really great, Luke, for me. Like, I've known you, I don't know, I remember that first time I met you, you had just got that role in Cherry Pickers, and I remember you from Liftoff because I watched it as a kid. On telly, I was really excited about that, and then I met you that time, and we've worked since then. It's just really lovely to hear this because now I know you, whenever we're working together, or if I see you around, or I've run into each other, and we've obviously got Facebook. And it's just nice to hear this other stuff. It's beyond just our relationship. It's just really simple.
Yeah, no, like I said, lifelong friends, and that's a great thing about acting. As a kid, I wanted to act because it was on TV and I was going to pay well, get out of school. But nowadays, I want to act because of the relationships I form, the story that I tell, the places that I travel to, and the people that I meet when I travel to those places. And I've been to some fantastic and amazing places. I did a TV show with Kathy Freeman called Going Bush, which was screened on SBS, and we toured out, and it was one of the best experiences, another best experience, but so many good experiences. But it was about getting, well, Deborah Malman and Kathy Freeman did the first series, but Deborah was pregnant for the second series, so she put my name forward for it, and I was lucky enough to get the gig. So it's basically going out into Aboriginal communities, urban blackfellas going out to Aboriginal communities and learning more about their culture and getting the stories. And I went up to Arakoon, which is, to hear about it in the media, you got to go there for yourself. I think it's got a bad rap in the past, but my lord, what a beautiful place, and the people just, I think because Kathy Freeman, but they opened up the doors to us, and it was just fantastic. We actually extended, we had a tight schedule, but we actually extended our stay in Arakoon because it was just so beautiful. I got lost in the mangroves. The tide was coming in, and when and when the tide comes in, there's crocs around, so I was a bit scared. And I was with the local women there, and usually, they should know their way out. They didn't. That's when I started freaking out a bit, and singing out and getting a bit. I'm a city boy, I'm Aussies, I'm mud and dirt. I loved it. In hindsight, I loved it, but at the time I was a bit scared. So. But yeah, I've been to some fantastic places and met some fantastic people and had some fantastic experiences, and that's because of this career that I've been gifted. So yeah, I'm very grateful for it.
Have you lose your accent here in the States?
Oh really? Yeah.
It sucks that they can't allow other people to have a different culture.
Yeah, it's be great if I could keep my accent. That'd be easy. Yeah. But and that's another. I love a challenge. As an actor, you love being challenged in a rehearsal room or whatever. And for me, learning American dialect, it's accent. Sorry, that's a challenge. And going over there, for 3 months during pilot season, which happens from late January through April, so that's when they're shooting all the new television shows, and so you audition flat out. So that's a big challenge, to save some money to go over there for pilot season, navigate my way around LA because it's so crazy, go up against thousands of actors for a role and just getting amongst it, and because Hollywood's, that's where the films are made, that's where it always has been, and so just to challenge myself over there, against other actors, and just to go to my grave knowing that I had a crack at it, not having any regrets, and that's something that's always played in the back of my mind. My management's been at me for years to get over there, and I've been pretty busy back here, and I'm happy to work back here, so hopefully I'll be able to go there at some stage and have a crack.
If you could have landed like any role in any of the films you've seen, what would have been your like dream to land?
Malcolm X. Something similar. No. Good question. I loved Rocky growing up. Apollo Creed, because I have a sporting background, but that's a hard question.
I think that answer is pretty good.
Yeah. Somewhere in between Apollo Creed and Malcolm X. Nah. It was, I don't know, that's hard. Yeah, that's hard. Action, I love action, so I consider myself, sort of mobile and sort of fit still, and I play sport. I play regularly when I can a sport called Oztag, which is like rugby league, but just not contact, even though you cop hits and stuff, but it's tag, so you got flags on your shorts and it's ripped off, it's like a tackle, so I played for Australia in the past. In 2002 I played for Australia and we toured over to New Zealand, but then because of my acting got in the way, I can't play when the tournaments are on, I'm chosen for those teams, but we did have a World Cup last year in December in Auckland, and we took 7 Indigenous teams over there to Auckland, and I played in the mixed team, and we actually ended up beating Australia in the final, so we're world champs. So yeah, I love it. Love keeping fit. I've just become an ambassador for the Kathy Freeman Foundation, so that requires me to basically drum up some support. She is getting a couple of ambassadors to head down to the Gold Coast Marathon in July, 6th and 7th, and the City to Surf in Sydney. And basically just to be there, but I said, if I'm going to be an ambassador, I want to compete, so I've been running around this beautiful location in the last couple of days, weeks, getting some training under my belt, because it's a half marathon, it's 21 k's, so yeah, it's a long way. And the city to south. So Anita Heiss was just here. She had to leave, but Anita and I are getting a team together for the city to south. It's happening here in Brisbane on our closing night day on the 16th of June. There's a 14k fun run here in the city, so I'm going to be joining that. And Anita and I are trying to drum up some team members and going to get a team name and sponsorship, hopefully. So I'm looking forward to doing that and getting fit. Because I'm usually fit, but can tend to get lazy sometimes. But the weather up here is too good not to get fit. It's just too through. Yeah, so I'm going to play up here, Mother Courage and Her Children. With yeah. So I'm one of the actors. Yeah, Queensland Theatre Company is producing it. It's at the Playhouse at QT's. Yeah. So opens on the 29th of May. But this previews 25th of May. Yeah. So. Yeah, Mother Courage, the Bertolt Brecht. Yeah, so that's when I'm up here. I might stay, I love Brisbane, it's beautiful. I won't be known, I'm a New South Wales man through and through an Origin and Rabbitohs. I went and watched the Rabbitohs in Friday night, which is good timing.
Yep. I just wanted to ask you, I'm hereditary too, through my dad's side.
Right.
Yeah, but I grew up in Woolloomooloo, and so I wanted to ask if you had any opportunities to sort of get in touch with the hereditary people. I grew up in Wolloomooloo and I didn't know any other hereditary people until I moved to Canberra actually.
Yep.
And I've just moved up here and now they seem to be everywhere. You and Anita was here.
We're everywhere, but we can't get, we're everywhere. all over the country. No. So the Wiradjuri tribe is the biggest tribe in New South Wales. So it covers up most of the central western region. It's massive. Biggest and the best. No, okay. But so I haven't had much to do with the culture. The language is gone, most of the language is gone, but do you know Stan Grant, the newsreader? Yeah. Stan Grant's a Wiradjuri man. His father, Stan Grant Sr., has bought out a dictionary, a Wiradjuri language dictionary, and a tape that goes with it. So I'm trying to get my hands on that. I grew up on Gadigal land in Sydney, so I'm born and bred, so most of my mum never used to go back out. We're from the Riverina district, so around Griffith, Narrandera Way, Yass, all throughout that area, just outside of Canberra. But mum never really sort of went back out there. She'd always stayed in the city, so we've got lots of family out there, but I haven't really had much to do with sort of, well, the language, most of it's lost, but we're just trying to regain that. But yeah, I'm born and bred, but basically a Sydney boy, so I haven't really had much to do with the local language of the Wiradjuri tribe or anything like that. Yeah.
Same story. It's just takes time.
Yeah, and it's hard because, like I said, a lot of the languages, well, the majority of the languages in New South Wales have been lost because that's where the settlement first started. So that's where it all sort of was.
Least likely to be on the traditional lands as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. Any other questions? One man show, no. Close. Would I like to do? Yeah, I'd love to do it. Yep. And that's another thing. People always ask, do I want to get into directing or writing? And at the moment, I don't. I'm just learning and loving so much of my acting. Still learning so much. And I don't think I'm wise enough yet to be a director or a writer. They're on a different level. When I work with Wesley, it's just directors, they just like think of things that I just don't. It's just amazing. So I'm still learning my little craft of acting, but maybe hopefully one day, lose a bit more hair and turn grey or something. I might get a bit wiser. But no, I'm loving it. But yeah, I'd love to do a one-man play. I mean, the closest thing was My Guru Gunja, I suppose, where I was basically out there the whole time, interacting with the audience and then being within the scene. That's sort of close to a one-man show in that regard. But yeah, I'd love to do something maybe about my own story growing up in the city, being a young. Yeah, I should start right. Yeah.
This is a bit philosophical. Like as you were speaking, your pride in being a doctor. I'm thinking that would fill you more than being a gangster in a black image in LA.
Oh yeah.
Like if that's the only roles that you're going to give.
Give me a what's the doctor? On Grey's Anatomy? McDreamy, yeah. I'll be a McDreamy any day. Bring that on. No, but I know, yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's probably the roles that I've come up with for over there. And that's the thing too, and that's something I want to break down in this country. Even though, look, I'm proud of who I am and what I am. Like I said, I'm an actor, but I'm also, I look in the mirror, I'm an Aboriginal man. But I think I've been in, this is my 25th year as an actor in the industry. I think I've got enough credits under my belt, enough experience under my belt, enough, sounds like I'm big, enough accolades. I've got 3 AFI nominations. My latest one was for Rep for Now. I think I've got enough experience to go for a role that doesn't necessarily have a nationality attached to the character, or it's just a character. If there's say for instance, why isn't there the best mate? Oh, actually no, they're doing it on paper rafters. The Greek fellow, that's good. Why isn't there an Aboriginal family in Home and Away? A full-on main family that's part of the summer base. Why isn't it an Asian family that's on there? These things need to be changed. And if you're a good enough actor, you should be able to go for any role. If there's no, like I said, no nationality attached to that character, and that's something that I give up big props to. Aaron Pedersen's been doing it for years. Water Rats, City Homicide. He's been doing it for a while. Deb Marmon. I mean, look, she's without a doubt our premier. I'm sure you both agree. she's our premier Indigenous actor in this country. You know, she's done theatre, she's won awards in theatre, she's won awards in television. But she can act, and that's the reason she's getting these roles, because she's breaking down boundaries, and people love her, and she's a fantastic person. But she's been doing these. Secret Life of Us, I think, was a big major break into television, and from there she just boomed. You know, so Offspring now she's on. She's going back and doing roles, Indigenous roles. Marbo, she played Bonita Marbo, and she's in Redfern now. She's too deadly. Jessica Mauboy, she's doing some great things. She's acting now. I follow her on Instagram, and she's all over the place. One day she's in Abu Dhabi doing the launch for the Qantas. The next day she's in New York walking the red carpet for the premiere of the Sapphires. Then she's back here having a cocktail on Sunday, doing a show down at the Caxton Street Festival, I think, or something like that. She's just all over the place. I love her bank balance, I tell you. She's doing fantastic things and breaking down boundaries. People love her because of who she is, not because of what she is. And it's a great thing that we can break down boundaries by being in this industry. So it's.
So do you think the media is seeing Aboriginal people as actors rather than saying Aboriginal people as actors?
Slowly, very, very slowly. So it's a slow process, but it is happening. And we have to be grateful for that. And I'm grateful for it. Like I said, when I started out, there was just, if you're Aboriginal and you're an actor, you're playing that only role, And sometimes, I don't know if you remember, I think Cameron Daddo they painted Cameron Daddo up once, and he played a Boney? Yeah. And there was a bit of a kerfuffle, and at least now we know that there are Aboriginal actors that can play that role, so that we know that when that happens. But it's a slow process, and it's the great thing is that Whopper have a great and ACPA, forget Perth, we're in Brisbane. ACPA, Australia Aboriginal Centre of Performing Arts. It's been around for years. Ursula was 90. They were based in Perth for a bit. And Ursula came through that program, and so they're a training, they're a drama school, a performing arts school. So to have these sort of institutions where our people can sort of gain experience and training and then go on to bigger and better things. Whopper, fantastic actors come out of Whopper Drama School, but they have an Indigenous program that goes for a year, and then from that they then go on to join the 3-year course. And that's a fantastic drama school for Whopper. Some guy called Hugh Jackman's been through there, and there's been some fantastic actors come through there. So we're lucky we've been given opportunities now to get training, and we've got to embrace those opportunities, and we are, and we're running with them, and we're coming up with great content and some fantastic actors. So the media, it's not so the media, it's more so the producers and the directors and the production companies that have to change their attitudes so that the media can then change their attitude, and that's because they influence the majority of the population. So we know how strong the media, the influence they have over people. So no, it's like I said, it's so exciting to be part of this era. And now we had some fantastic Indigenous actors come before us who paved the way, and I was lucky enough to work with them. Thank God. I did forgot to tell you, a show in 1993 after Liftoff called Heartland, which has been repeated at the moment on NITV, but it's been renamed to Burn the Bridge. A young Kate Blanchett was her first gig out of drama school, and it's basically majority all Indigenous cast. Ernie Dingo, the late and great Uncle Bob Mazza, who paved the way, the late and great Auntie Justine Saunders, the late and great Uncle Kevin Smith. These are actors who were working back in their 70s and 80s when it wasn't cool to be an Aboriginal or to be an Aboriginal actor. It was just fantastic to gain some experience from them and work with them. So we've been pretty lucky to have those people come before us, and now we've got to respect the opportunity that we've been given now, because they never had that opportunity. We have to respect what we've got now to go forward and do a good job of it. So yeah. I work with Chinoa. I think I missed it, but I knew you were doing a production in Sydney, a play, and I'm with Lillian, who I work with, Crombie, who Ursula I worked with numerous times, and Christine Arnoux, and it was a fresh face, you know. I was like, and I've so many fresh faces, you know. We've got young Eli Wadigo who's in the play, Robert Preston who's in the play, and I've never I've seen them work before. So to see this whole new breed, young Aaron McGrath who played Ursula's son in Redfern Now. Have you seen Redfern Now? Anybody watched it? Did you see the episode where the national anthem, the young boy at school? He didn't stand up for the national anthem. Well, Ursula played his mother, but the young boy who played the lead role, fantastic. And I've been giving him advice, the same advice Ernie gave me as a youngster. So hopefully it gets through to his head and he keeps his head on his shoulders. But it's just fantastic to see all the. Because I was always the young actor. I was always the young blackfellow in the plays, and I was the only one around at the time. But to see so many now that come through, it just fills my heart with joy. And I feel like I'm an elder, but I'm not an elder. It's a weird experience, but and I'm just proud. And I'm happy to be working still, and to be still relevant. You know, like not many child actors are still around these days. You know, and you know I'm part of the minority. I was a child actor. I was an Aboriginal actor, and I'm still here. So I count my blessings every day. I touch wood, but it's a bit too hot. Oh yeah, I'll touch that. Yeah, so. It's very, very exciting for all Australians to have, I think, Indigenous stories told on stage and on television shows and in film. I think everyone can benefit from it.